Breaking: Keir Starmer just shattered 107 years of British policy with a single letter. 300 words. That's all it took to flip Middle East diplomacy upside down and send shockwaves from Washington to Tel Aviv. While the world was sleeping, Britain's Prime Minister quietly made the most consequential foreign policy move since Brexit. If you want to understand the politics reshaping our world, hit that subscribe button now, because you won't want to miss what comes next. September 21, 2025. A date that's about to be taught in history classrooms for the next 100 years. Picture this. Starmer sits at his Downing Street desk and writes a single letter to Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas. With surgical precision, he officially recognizes Palestine as a sovereign state. Just like that. No warning. No consultation. No mercy. But here's the kicker. He didn't just recognize Palestine. He went completely nuclear. The letter directly references Britain's 1917 Balfour Declaration, that infamous colonial-era promise that handed the same land to two different peoples and helped create this century-long nightmare. Starmer essentially looked at more than 100 years of British diplomatic chaos and said, "We broke it." The reaction was instant, raw, and unfiltered chaos. Conservative MPs are having public meltdowns. Betrayal of our closest allies, they're screaming in Parliament. This is a national security nightmare that will haunt Britain for generations. They're acting as if Starmer just handed over the crown jewels to Britain's worst enemy's former Prime Minister Rishi Sunak called it the most reckless foreign policy decision in modern British history. And that's coming from the man who crashed the economy with a single budget. Meanwhile, Labour's left wing, the Jeremy Corbyn disciples who've been waiting for this moment since the dawn of time, are celebrating like England just won the World Cup final. After decades of demanding Palestinian recognition while being branded anti-Semitic extremists, their guy actually went and did it. Reports say the scenes inside Labour headquarters felt like New Year's Eve and Christmas morning rolled into one. But here's what's truly wild. The public reaction isn't what anyone predicted. Early polling shows 58% of Britons actually support the move. Turns out, when you explain that recognizing Palestinian statehood doesn't mean you hate Jewish people, most ordinary voters think it sounds pretty reasonable. Who would have guessed? But the real story isn't unfolding in Westminster tea rooms or polling booths. It's playing out on the global stage, where every major power is scrambling to understand what Britain just did to the world order. Israel's response has been nothing short of volcanic. Prime Minister Netanyahu recalled the Israeli ambassador within 3 hours, and issued a statement so severe it made their response to Iran look diplomatic. Britain, he said, has chosen to reward terrorism and punish democracy. The statement read, "This decision will have consequences for every aspect of British-Israeli relations." Translation: the gloves are completely off. But here's where it gets really interesting. Israel's threats are largely empty. What are they actually going to do? Boycott British tea? Stop watching Doctor Who? The economic relationship flows heavily in Britain's favor, and Israel relies on British intelligence cooperation far more than Britain needs Israeli approval. The Americans, though, are absolutely losing their minds behind closed doors. The State Department released one of the most diplomatically furious statements you'll ever read. While we respect the UK's sovereign right to make foreign policy decisions, we strongly disagree with this timing and approach. That's diplomatic language for what the hell were you thinking, and why didn't you warn us? Sources inside the Biden administration, yes, Biden is still technically president in this timeline, describe the mood as somewhere between panic and rage. They've spent months trying to contain tensions in the Middle East, and now their closest ally has lobbed a diplomatic grenade straight into the region. Congressional Republicans are already calling for reviews of intelligence sharing agreements. The so-called special relationship just became very, very complicated. But the EU's response is where things get genuinely fascinating. Brussels has been divided on Palestinian recognition for years, with member states pulling in different directions. Now Britain, no longer in the EU but still shaping European thinking, has forced their hand. Within hours of Starmer's announcement, Spain's Prime Minister said they were reviewing their position. Ireland announced it was studying the British approach with great interest. Even France stepped in, admitting they're reassessing their Middle East policy framework. Germany, predictably, is having an existential crisis. Their foreign minister released a statement that basically said, "We support the principle but have concerns about the process, while reaffirming our commitment to Israel's security, Palestinian rights, and regional stability." You get the idea. Peak German diplomacy. But the Arab world's reaction has been the most revealing of all. For decades, they've watched Western governments talk endlessly about a two-state solution while doing absolutely nothing to make it real. Now, suddenly, a major Western power has actually acted. Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince, Mohammed bin Salman, reportedly moved quickly, announcing new British investment opportunities worth £15 billion. The UAE followed with £8 billion in infrastructure commitments. Egypt opened talks on expanded Suez Canal cooperation agreements. It's as if Britain just passed a diplomatic test it didn't even realize it was taking. Qatar, long trying to balance closer ties with the West while backing Palestinian causes, effectively rolled out the red carpet. They're now talking about massive energy deals, expanded diplomatic cooperation, and joint investment funds. The message is unmistakable. Finally, a Western nation is backing up its words with action. But here's what almost no one is talking about, and what really matters. The timing is everything. This didn't happen in a vacuum. Regional tensions are already sky high. Iranian proxies are active on multiple fronts. Gaza reconstruction talks are stalled. Traditional Arab-Israeli normalization efforts have hit brick walls. Into this geopolitical powder keg, Starmer just tossed a lit match. Either this is the most reckless foreign policy gamble since Suez in 1956, or it's the most carefully calculated diplomatic masterstroke in decades. There is no middle ground. Think about the strategic logic behind it. Britain is no longer bound by EU foreign policy consensus. Brexit, for all its flaws, gave Britain full independence over its foreign affairs. The special relationship with the United States still matters, but it doesn't require blind obedience on every issue. And post-Brexit, Britain urgently needs new trading partners and fresh investment. The Arab world represents vast, largely untapped potential, a combined GDP of more than $3 trillion, sovereign wealth funds worth hundreds of billions, and energy resources Britain needs to fuel its green transition. Until now, cultural and political barriers have held that cooperation back. By recognizing Palestine, Britain didn't just make a moral statement, though that's clearly part of it. It made a strategic bet that the future of British prosperity lies in diversified global partnerships, not just traditional Western alliances. The risks are huge. Security cooperation with Israel could deteriorate. American intelligence sharing might be scaled back. Relations with the EU could become even more complicated if other states don't follow Britain's lead. Conservative voters could punish Labour at the next election. But the potential rewards are just as enormous. The Arab world has long waited for a Western power to treat it as an equal partner rather than a junior ally. Britain just stepped forward to fill that role. Palestinian leaders are publicly declaring total victory. President Abbas called it a historic moment of justice after decades of occupation and oppression. Privately, though, Palestinian officials understand this also brings pressure to govern competently and to negotiate in good faith going forward. Recognition without real statehood capabilities means nothing. The real test starts now. Can Britain hold this position under pressure? Will other Western powers follow its lead? How will Israel respond beyond angry statements? Will the Arab world actually deliver on its economic promises? And most importantly, did Starmer just help resolve a century-old problem, or did he create an entirely new one? Here's my take. This is the biggest foreign policy risk taken by any British Prime Minister since Tony Blair went into Iraq. The difference is that this time, Britain is trying to end conflicts rather than ignite them. The letter references the Balfour Declaration not as an attack on Jewish rights, but as an acknowledgement that Britain bears responsibility for today's reality. It's saying we helped create this mess through colonial arrogance, and now we have a duty to help fix it through post-colonial responsibility. Whether this works depends entirely on what happens over the next 6 months. If Arab investment actually arrives, if Palestinian governance improves, if regional tensions genuinely cool down, then Starmer looks like a strategic genius. If it all unravels, he looks like an idealistic fool who torched Britain's Middle East relationships for nothing. The stakes could not be higher. Britain's global reputation, stability in the Middle East, Labour's electoral future, and the entire direction of Israeli-Palestinian relations now rest on 300 words that took 5 minutes to write. One thing is certain. September 21, 2025 changed everything. The old rules of Middle East diplomacy are dead. The only question left is what replaces them. So what do you think? Is this a brilliant long-term strategy or reckless short-term politics? Did Starmer solve the unsolvable, or did he turn stability into chaos? Drop your thoughts below. Share this with someone who needs to understand what just changed forever, and let me know what you want me to cover next.